Hello guys, NautoAisDx here, and finally is the very first episode of the MmGS vlog after my break. So of course, like I said in my update, the first thing I would like to talk about, giving my thoughts on, is the delay in Final Fantasy 15. So before I even start giving my thoughts about it, there's two things that I wanna basically put some pointers here that kind of more understand why they delayed this game. First of all, is Shigeru Miyamoto's famous quote in a financial report, and basically this one, you know what it is. It kind of related to Super Smash Bros. Brawl, because if you know that history, the game also had some problem. So the quote is, "A delay in a game is good. A bad game will always be a bad game." And I have talked about this multiple times on vlogs, but I'll always say that again. And that is the reason why this quote is very important, is delaying games most of the time it's not a bad thing. A delay can be bad if the game is already been bad. So I'm gonna explain that later on. So the second point about that you have to think is also, I would like to plug the Backlog Battle podcast with Alex and Anthony. In their latest episode, links on the description box, they did give their thoughts also on the delay. And Alex basically had more scoop of why the delay is. And I'll explain why the game was delayed in just a minute. But yeah, if you have a chance, listen to Alex and Anthony, their basically thoughts about it. They go in depth. And if you like the podcast in general, if you want to support them, help them build a list on iTunes by basically going to their Amazon link. So if you want to buy something at Amazon, like a brand new game, heck, pre-order Final Fantasy 15, go to their link, do your pre-order, buy your game, buy your stuff, buy anything. And part of it will help Alex and Anthony build their playlist in their iTunes. So there you go. So again, if you have a chance, check out Backlog Battle. So for everybody knows that Final Fantasy 15 is delayed. For people who don't know yet, well, now you know. And if you don't know what the reason is okay. Let's just say in lamest term, is that there were a lot of concern about Final Fantasy 15. First of all, Hajime Hibata, which is the director for Final Fantasy 15, it used to be before Tetsuya Nomura. I do apologize, but he had a focus on two other things. First of all, Kingdom Hearts 3, yay, and 2 is the Final Fantasy 7 remake. So Hajiba took over, and basically he found something that needed a delay. So of course, the most common thing is they wanted to polish the game, they want to make some improvement before shipping it out. I can agree with that. If you need an extra time to build the game to make it perfect, there you go. Second was, thanks to Hajiba being transparent, that if the game was going to be released on September 30th, then they're gonna have to put in a day one patch. You go, I hate that word. I hate day one patch. Why do you need to do that if you could just put it in the game? Good question. Again, behind the scene in the business, it's not really that easy, and that Alex actually can explain it. Is that you do have a timeline, a deadline when you're going to release the game. So you have to finish everything before that deadline. And a lot of time is that if you don't have enough time to basically fix the game, because you have to do certification, packaging, making deals with retailer, what else? Getting approval for the console company, PlayStation and Xbox, and that takes time. So with the day one patch, a lot of fans were saying, we don't want a day one patch. I mean, that's BS. Man. And the reason why also that's bad, it kind of showed that, well, one, that means you didn't really fix the game, that you fixed it post by doing a patch. And some people said, according to some people, and the patch is really big. So he had to address that. And this is the part that Alex basically went more in depth, is that Hajiba was concerned about releasing this game on September with if there was a day like patch, because in some country, I hate to say this, their internet is not so good. So which country it is, I'm not gonna get in there. If you want to know about it, Backlog Battle will explain it. Sorry, I'm not gonna put the clip for this one. If you really want to listen to it, links on the description box. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm just sorry because I do kind of want people to go there. So there you go. So he was concerned about that in some country the internet is poor. So he said, well, instead of giving them a big patch because the patch is going to be big, they just said, let's just finally put that update patch in the game and just release it in November. Kind of makes sense. I can agree with it. And of course, the fiasco with Blaze Blue, Blaze Blue Central Fiction not having a dub due to release issue. When now I see the bigger picture, hey, now I'm cool with having with the delay. Hey, and of course, just once again, I'm cool with releasing in a longer gap from Japanese release to worldwide release. But that's just me. I'm just one guy. There you go. So that is props to Hajima there for basically delaying it, so they can already put in the patch without people worrying about I gotta download it, because like I said, some countries do have weak internet. And in my home country, I can tell you, of course not me, I live in America, but some of my relatives, let's just say they're paying as same as I do, and they still have weak internet. See, that's what I'm saying. And for the history of internet, who invented internet, I think it was American who did it. I do apologize if I went political there, but whatever. So anyway, that's the reason, one of the major reasons the delay was, besides polishing the game, is that so they can put in the day one patch without worrying about it. So then you might say, for people like your sole reason that you were born in this country so you can play Final Fantasy 15, first, I'm kind of worried for you guys. Like, there are a lot of other games. So, I do feel for you, but like I said, the delay will help to improve the game. Again, there are a lot of games like the gaming as of right now, they got more games than before. I'm an 80s kid, I said it before. Yes, during the NES era, the 8-bit or 16-bit era, delaying sometimes a game is bad, because there's not a lot of games, they're too expensive, and if you're a kid, you don't make money. And I'm like, well, I'm a kid now, I can't make money. Well, it's kind of easier to make money 2016 than in 1990. Maybe not, who knows? But there are ways. You guys are smart. Just saying. So, like I said, there are a lot of other games then, because just like Alex, just like Ted, Anthony, we sometimes, I guess, if you get older, you do get a lot of backlog. But of course, there's more multiple sales than in the NES era, the Super Nintendo era, or the 16-bit, 8-bit era. There were more games that clearance than in the past. Maybe that's also reason why I have this mentality of, dude, there's a lot more games. It's just me. So, like I said, the delay is not that bad. So then you might say, well, that kind of sucked, because I remember a Final Fantasy game used to release on a September. Not so quite. So I'm going to explain about this part here. So most of that Final Fantasy it really doesn't matter when it's released. When the game is Final Fantasy game release, people are going to buy it. Come on. Everybody knows you're going to buy it in day one. I did it. So some people will do it too. That's just, it's a thing. Trust me. Final Fantasy game, instant sale there. It's not like Neptunia or Harvest Moon. Okay, that's not an RPG. Let's see, I can think of it. Disgaea. Tier Alchemist series. You get the point. I mean, I'm sorry, but Final Fantasy is Final Fantasy, so it doesn't matter when it is. But so we're gonna do one by one the main series, like what month did the Final Fantasy basically was released. All right, so the first one is of course the first Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy One for the NES. So I'm just gonna go to good old Wikipedia and we're gonna do Final Fantasy release. Eh? So I don't remember because I was too young for Final Fantasy One, but I can tell you about the Final Fantasy Two for the Super Nintendo, aka Final Fantasy Four, was released on a November. So there you go already. So why not 15? So okay, let's see. So Final Fantasy video game. Hopefully they have main series. Okay, there you go. So Final Fantasy. Oh man, really? Okay, this is not gonna. Wait, oh, never mind. I got it. I'm using my phone here. Okay, Final Fantasy One for the NES was released on July 12, 1990. There you go. And I'm gonna basically mention the first time it was released. You see, yeah, it was released on the GBA. They were released on PlayStation, Xbox, blah 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 blah. No. Just the first time around. So the NES version of Final Fantasy One is June 12, 1990. So already there. Surprisingly, Nintendo used to release game during the summer. Now, a new market. I guess they don't. Don't know why. So Final Fantasy 2 in Japan. This is the NES, the Famicom one. It really never came out as an NES. So unfortunately, in this one, we're gonna have to say the one from Final Fantasy Origin. I think that one, yes. Origin basically April 2003. But now look at there, April. So if you want your Final Fantasy to fix, there you go. And again, in America, in Japan, it was December 17, 1988. And yes, if you notice, like the earlier Final Fantasy wasn't in a worldwide release. So there you go. So basically in Japan, it was December for the Famicom, December 17, 1998. In America, the first Final Fantasy 2 was Final Fantasy Origin for the PlayStation, so it was April 2003. So, I mean, yeah, I know, sort of a cop out, but again, you gotta understand that there was no NES version. Alright, Final Fantasy 3, Japanese release for the NES one, and I did play that via emulator, I know, is April 27th, 1990. Alright, the tricky one here is that the first ever Final Fantasy that came to America, first of all, it was on the DS, and that was a full remake into 3D. And basically, according to here, was November 14, 2006. So there you go, another Final Fantasy game that was released in November. Again, second one in North America. So from 3, we're gonna go to Final Fantasy 4. So in Japan, it's July 19, 1991. And this is Final Fantasy 4. Alright, here's the cop out I'm going to do. In America, the first time this Final Fantasy came in, they call it 2 first because it's Nintendo. But just taking it 4 is November 23rd, 1991. Again, there you go. Again, in a November. So you say, well, what's the true Final Fantasy 4? Well, the true one came in Final Fantasy 4 is for the PlayStation part with Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy Chronicles. That one actually came, believe it or not, and I remember this, July 2001. Well, that was July, but the first time, again, November, Final Fantasy 4, 2, whatever, is 1991 of November. Alright, so with that, we're gonna go to Final Fantasy 5 in Japan for the Super Famicom. Oh, December 6th, 1992. So a month after November. In America, October the 5th, 1999, but it's on the PlayStation. Final Fantasy 5. The first time, yes, it was on a PlayStation. So there you go. And then you saw a lot of better version for the GBA. And then I think that's it. And then it was probably also in the portable. I think Steam at one point. I don't know. So there you go. Then comes Final Fantasy 6. My least favorite one. I know. A lot of people love it. Least favorite one of mine. I'm sorry. It just is. So, with that, here's an interesting one. In Japan, it's April the 2nd, 1994. In America, October 11th, 1994, as Final Fantasy 3. Again, earlier than November. But again, you already noted there's already some games in November. So far, there wasn't any, not as of Final Fantasy 6, there was no Final Fantasy release on a fall or September. So there you go. And then the next one is for the first time. Well, not so much, but in America actually for the first time. Final Fantasy 7. Yes, the biggest Final Fantasy that a lot of people want. The mainstream Final Fantasy. Maximilian loves this. Alex loves this. A lot of people love it because it was their first Final Fantasy. And if you ever bought a PlayStation over an N64, you know why you bought it. It's Final Fantasy 7. So with that, the release date in Japan is January the 31st, 1997. So a new day, January, that's the first time. In America, September 7th, 1997. So there you go. Finally, a first Final Fantasy in America that was released on September. So the next one is Final Fantasy 8. And this one is in Japan. Oh, I see. Okay, for Japan, wait, I'll explain why I said that. In Japan, February 11th, 1999. In America, September the 9th, 1999. So 2 years later, from 7 to 8 in America, another one. And then Final Fantasy 9. Final Fantasy 9. 9. So here's one. In Japan, by the way, Final Fantasy 9 is the one that Amano was working on. And I'll give a tidbit about 89. What's the deal with it? July 7th, 2000. In America, November 13th, 2000. So now, right there, we have two Final Fantasy that actually was released in November. Final Fantasy 2, 4 for the SNES, and Final Fantasy 9 for the PlayStation. And if you notice from 8 to 9, why is it only a year apart? Because the tidbit here is that there were two different group working on Final Fantasy. There was the Tetsuya group, Nomura doing 8, while not really Amano, because Amano, I think, Amano's the artist, but the guy who created Final Fantasy was doing 9. So it was actually a double project for a different one. That's the reason of wasn't even like, well, it was a year and 3 months, but normally Final Fantasy game takes a long time from one each another. But there you go, little tidbit. So now we're gonna go to Final Fantasy X. All right, in Japan is July 19th, 2001. In America, December 2001. So another Final Fantasy in December. So there you go. So then Final Fantasy 11, the online. Okay, this was a little bit tricky because Final Fantasy 11 was not only on the PlayStation but also on PC. Then later on came to the Xbox. But according to Wikipedia, I know, first of all, in Japan, May 16, 2002 for the PlayStation 2. In America, October the 28th, 2003, the PC first came out. And if I'm wrong, just correct me. I don't really follow the online Final Fantasy, the MMO. So basically, but again, October, another one. So, and then we go to Final Fantasy 12, one of my other favorite Final Fantasy. It's interesting. In Japan, it's March 16, 2006. In America, October 31st, 2006. So another one for October. And if you cannot notice that in America, a lot of the Final Fantasy releases are either between September to December because it's one of the best time in America. While in Japan, it's basically just everywhere. It's either could be in June, could be in January, March. Like there is no pattern or no reason in it because, like I said, you release a Final Fantasy, guaranteed you can have sale. But in America, a little bit. But if you notice their pattern, there is they always would release it between September to December. That's up to Final Fantasy 12 until the next one. Final Fantasy 13 went in the reverse. So in Japan it's December 17, 2009. But in America it's March 9, 2010. So for the first time a Final Fantasy comes not on the fall but on the spring for the first time. And again, it doesn't matter. Not good it may be, it's still a Final Fantasy. So again, what can you do? Final Fantasy, it's always going to have sales. And you kind of notice also for this one, and let me just check 12 again, just for it. Yes, see, wait, wrong one. For 12 is, I kind of notice, yeah, I noticed a pattern here is that minus the online one, the later Final Fantasy, the gaps are getting closer and closer. They're not yet worldwide release, but they are getting closer. So with that, we're gonna check Final Fantasy 14, and of course, everybody knows if you follow Backlog Battle, they always love talking about this game, Final Fantasy 14. The original. Okay, so I'm gonna have to basically mention the original vanilla version Final Fantasy 14 online. Yes, everybody knows it's the bad one. They had to relaunch it for a Realm Reborn because, from what I heard, and if you want to know about it, Backlog Battle do tell about the history of Final Fantasy. The first director that did it basically wasn't too good, so someone who had a passion took over, and they fixed it. So with that, it's still Final Fantasy. I have to mention the vanilla one, so the release date for that one. And oh, here's an interesting part: September 30th in Japan, 2010. In America, September 30th, 2010. Yes, and again, it's an online, and surprisingly, worldwide, it's actually a worldwide release. September 30th, 2010. And of course, I just mentioned it, another game that appeared on September. So, again, you say, oh, well, 14 was in September. But like I said, there were a game that was released in November. 9 and Final Fantasy 2/4 for the Super Nintendo. So, then now we come to Final Fantasy 15. And the game's not out yet, so... But they did say the release date plan is November 29th, 2016 in Japan. North America, November 29th, 2016. PAL region also, November 29th, 2016. Worldwide, November 29th, 2016. And even had a footnote said, first mainline single-player Final Fantasy to have a global release date. There you go. See? Again, November is not that bad. I know it's almost close to Christmas. I mean, it makes sense, Have it as a Christmas gift. So I don't think, and like I said, Final Fantasy release date, there's never a problem because it doesn't matter where you put it. I guarantee you it's going to sell. And if you notice, like I said, in America, minus Final Fantasy 13 is from September to December. So, and again, Final Fantasy 15 is the very first Final Fantasy was released worldwide. Because yes, Square Enix did say they really wanted to release it worldwide. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 4 did it, like I said, Mario Galaxy did it, Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 4 did it. I mean, there have been a lot of games now becoming worldwide release. And I'll be talking about it in another vlog, but for now I'm talking about Final Fantasy VII delay. So again, there you go, Final Fantasy's release date. So in November, it's not that bad. So now you're saying again, well, I hate delays. I really want to play this game. Well, you also have to understand, and this is when Miyamoto's quote basically comes in, that a delayed game is good, a bad game will always be a bad game, because there have been situations when you delayed a bad game, a bad game, no matter how much delay you needed, the game's going to be always bad. So the first one, of course, everybody knows in the West, in North America, is the Duke Nukem game. Gearbox finally fixed the game and released it, and it came out bad. Had a long history. Alex and Anthony did explain it, so I'll give the gist of it. It did start in the PlayStation, the 32-bit era, had some problem. They moved it to the PS2 era. Again, there was some problem because it was originally supposed to be in the Dreamcast, but they put it on hold. And then there was rumbling that they were gonna put it on the PS3 360, but again, no director, no publisher. Now the game itself was in limbo, and then legal basically step in. And then finally, in the end of the cycle of the PS3, well, somewhere in the end of the HD era, let's just say that, Gearbox took over and they salvaged the game whatever they can. And in the end of the day, the game wasn't really salvageable. They really couldn't make the game any improvement. That delaying the game, it's not going to do anything good. And that 2K just said, just release the game, we'll take our losses, and there you go. So that's the gist of Duke Nukem. It is just a bad game. So another one maybe you're thinking is Mighty Number 9. I have the game. Spoiler, I actually enjoyed the game, but it is hard. There will be a vlog about that one. Yeah. So basically in that one, the concept was good. They had a lot of supporter. What went wrong with Mighty Number 9, and there were so many, was, first of all, I hate to say it, KG got too ambitious. He did some stretch goal and people supported it, and the plan was he'll release the game in every platform that's available for all of it. PC, Linux, Mac, then the console version, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, Xbox One, 360, Nintendo Wii U, 3DS, PlayStation Portable. They said like 10 different versions they're going to do it or worldwide release. Right there, it's already a little bit ambitious. Down the line, he couldn't do it because another one he made a mistake was picking an outdated engine, thinking he can cut costs, and unfortunately with that really didn't work, and because of it, well, he had to delay some of the game. Some of them had to put on the ports had to be put on hold, and he had a hard time basically developing the game. And then of course the end result didn't really come out right. It looked like, I hate to say it, it does look like a PS3 game. Well, it is on the PS3, but the problem really is that I mean, it's not a bad game, but a lot of people trusted KG to make a Mega Man game, and this is what you get. Yeah, I mean, Kickstarter is way different than with a publisher, and also another downside was that two things. One was KG wasn't so much transparent to what the situation was, and when he does go transparent, unfortunately, he basically said, well, the game's delayed, the demo's delayed, everything's delayed. And then when the end project finally came, he did a stream, basically explained the situation, and like I said, it wasn't too good. His personal translator, basically, let's just say, done goof. Let's just say that, and because he said something he probably shouldn't have said. And unfortunately, I'm not going to talk about it here. But if you want to know that, it'll be on my Mighty Number 9 V block. Yeah, that will be the next one. Is the Mighty Number 9 V block. There you go, spoiler. And I'll do a follow up on one of my quick V block about It's Better Than Nothing. So you're saying, well, there, see, the delay of a game is bad because you got Duke Nukem and Mighty Number 9. Yeah, like I said, Duke Nukem was just really bad. It has, like I said, development problem. Mighty Number 9, KG got too ambitious. He just couldn't handle it, and he admitted it. He said, "Yeah, I made a mistake." So, what happened if you don't delay it? Say Final Fantasy 15 was on September. First of all, it might not be so polished because people are already saying one of the concern was the frame rate issue. Second, the day one DLC. And what happened when the game is rushed? Well, if you remember Assassin's Creed Unity, when that first came in October, it wasn't really too good. Performance-wise, it was really bad. It was frame rate drops, a lot of like falling through ceiling, floating in air, NPC doing the weirdest thing, and of course the infamous faceless NPC. So for $60, that was really, really scary. I mean, by December, they finally had the patch. So by the time I got the game, all the patches were already out. But the point is, they drop it $60 and you get something like this. It's not good. That even Ubisoft had to damage control everything and trying not to review the game until like really later. Ridiculous. You know, there's something bad. There's something wrong there. So that's a problem with not delaying game. Another one is, was the Master Chief Collection, Halo Master Chief Collection. The online had a problem. Review Tech USA basically made a video about it, and I don't know if they fixed it because I don't play Halo, but I know for a while it took them a long time just to fix the online. And there you go. That's the problem when you don't delay it. Sometimes a game, if you needed a delay, that is what's going to happen. And of course, the infamous Virtual Boy, which according to Nintendo, Insider, the Virtual Boy was rushed. The late Gunpei Yokoi did want to improve it. He needed more time. They wouldn't give it to him. That's why we got the infamous red screen. And Nintendo's poorest Unix system sold. Let's just say that. Right, so with that, there you go. My thoughts on the Final Fantasy VII delay. I think it's a good thing. And how Final Fantasy doesn't really matter when it's released. Doesn't matter which month it is. People will buy it. It's a guaranteed AAA sale. And of course, I told you what happened when a game is not delayed. And if you really need a delay, it needed to be polished. If you don't, you get Unity. You get Virtual Boy. The Halo Master Chief Collection. There you go. And of course, like I said, the situation when the game is bad, like Duke Nukem and sorry to say Mighty Number 9, yeah, you really can't do anything about it. So thanks for listening. And the next one, like I say, is going to be my thoughts on Mighty Number 9. Hello guys, NautoAisDx here, and finally, it's the first episode of the MmGS blog coming back from my break. So basically, I would be talking about, like I said, Final Fantasy 15's delay. So with that, you know what? Let's just get started. So with that, oops, dang it, no, that's wrong.